Hello, everyone. This is Coach Kyle from Northern Lights Basketball Academy, and thank you for tuning in. In this particular lesson, part 1 of on-ball screens, we're going to be talking briefly about why we use screens, how teams may guard the screens, and that will be the primary focus of this particular video of the lesson. We're going to look at 6 of the most common ways to guard on-ball screens. By knowing common ways that teams will guard these screens, you will be able to anticipate and have your skills ready to be used to get your advantage. So I'm briefly going to read through this document that you have access to, and there's an additional video where we're actually going to be looking at how to set these screens up, the reads on these screens, and then finally the attacking moves to execute and to get what you want on them. Screens are an easy way to create advantage for the offensive team. They force the defensive team to communicate, make decisions, and move to defend the screen properly. If the defense makes a mistake or is delayed in any of these things, then an advantage has been created, and it is now up to the offensive players to read and execute properly. The reads and skills needed to be a successful player in ball screen situations can be practiced as any other skill or read. With purposeful repetition, the reads become more recognizable to the point that you can anticipate them and know which skills will be needed to execute the read. Also, knowing how the defense likes to defend the on-ball screen will allow you to make quicker, more accurate reads. Lastly, the location on the floor in which the screen is being set or used may also dictate the available reads that can be used. How teams may guard an on-ball screen. Screens have been a part of the game for a long while now, and there are many different types of screens. This is because they work. They're one of the best ways at creating advantages for your team. Since screens have been so widely used, teams have had to figure out pretty good ways of defending against them. But as we learned in previous lessons, it is very difficult to take all options away. Knowing how your defenders can or will guard your screen action will make your job quite a bit easier in offense. It allows you to anticipate what's coming. With that anticipation, you can have a plan and counters ready when attacking the screen. Below are the 6 most common ways you will see an on-ball screen being defended. The first method is a switch where the defenders will swap checks. Screens can also be guarded without switching checks. This can be achieved through a variety of ways. I've described 5 of them below. As we go through the pictures and the video portion of the app on the basketball clipboard I'm about to show you, it's good to know what we're looking at. So the legend here is we've got some black labeled players, and that is the offensive team. The green players are going to be the defensive team. In the portion below, you see what a screen diagram looks like, essentially being a T. A player cutting is represented with just a straight line and an arrow to represent the direction of the cut and to the location. And finally, the squiggly line, again with the arrow, indicates a player that's dribbling a basketball. Not seen in this document are dashed lines. You could see that in other documents, and that represents a passed basketball. So the first look that we're going to look at is switching the on-ball screen. And this is a very, very common method of defending ball screens, especially at younger ages. Switching is a good option for teams they're all roughly the same size, the same mobility, or the same skill set. The defensive team is essentially saying, any one of us can guard any one of you. Where switching starts to become risky is when the defensive team is made up of bigs and smalls, or slow players and fast players. Having these different types of players can create a disadvantage when switching on screens. For example, when a guard and big switch, it could potentially create a size or speed mismatch. Switching also starts to break down if the communication and execution of the switch aren't done as a cohesive unit. For example, it is very common for one defender to think that they are in a switching scheme while their partner may think they're fighting through their screens. When this particular miscommunication occurs, it often creates a double team instead of balanced coverage, and this leaves one offensive player briefly unguarded, and that is a massive advantage. So in these diagrams below, you can see that the point guard number one, who would have the basketball, and number one will have the basketball in all of these situations you see below. And they're being guarded by green number one. Black number two is going to come and set a nice side screen up at the top. And you see that the two is going to be following them through that. And then finally, they will switch. And I'm going to be able to show you this live momentarily. So the pictures will help, but I'll be able to show you the actual motions. The sag and through, or sometimes called zoning it. In the sag and through, the defense will have the player guarding the screener sag off or zone up well below the screen as a safety option. This is a good defensive scheme to use if the ball handler is quick and crafty with the ball, but not necessarily a strong shooter or pull-up shooter in particular. This will provide the defense multiple layers to stop the ball handler and time or space to make their decisions. The zone approach also allows teams to hide slower players by having them sag off the screener. This provides a slower player time to react to a much quicker player. And time usually means better decisions. It also ensures that the slower player won't get stuck with a mismatch off the screen action against a quicker player. And you could see below that there are 4 scenarios here that we are looking at that, again, I will go through with you live momentarily. The jam and under, the jam and recover, sometimes called a squeeze. So this is where the jam and under technique is often used against offenses that employ a skilled mobile big. By jamming against the screening big, you can ensure that they won't slip or rim roll. Jamming the big on the screen even makes their pop a little bit more difficult, and that's something that we'll show you in the other video. Teams can also use this method of going under the screen to beat the ball handler to a spot in an attempt to counteract their superior speed. With this method, the defense is accepting the risk of a player pulling up for a jumper as they come over the screen. The hedge and recover is very popular, and if it can be executed properly, it is an excellent way of defending the on-ball screen. But it is not always easy to defend it with the hedge. And if you're a little bit late to the hedge or you don't set it at the proper angle, you're going to allow the ball handler to turn the corner on you and get to where they want to be. So the hedge and recover it's a very common tactic used by defenses to control screen action and attempt to steer the ball handler away from their desired side of the court. So when this is executed properly, it is devastating as a defensive scheme. You can essentially shut down that offense altogether. However, this hedge has limitations and it can be beat. So like I said, if the hedger is not on time and in the correct angle, the offensive player will be able to turn that corner, essentially defeating that screen right there. We also have the blitz, which is it's a fun way of playing defense, I personally think. However, you really have to be communicating and moving as a whole. You need all 5 players really bought into this. If not, there's a lot of advantages available to the offensive team. So blitz is a quick, unexpected attack or trap set by the defense. This is a great method of getting the ball out of the hands of a primary ball handler or a great scorer. The aim is to force the ball handler into a rushed decision and hopefully a sloppy pass that could lead to a turnover. In a blitz, both the person guarding the ball and the person guarding the screener will jump out and try to trap the ball before the screen action can be initiated. This method could leave an offensive player temporarily unguarded if the defense isn't communicating and rotating properly. Icing the screen. This is a good tactic, especially for sideline screens or wing screens, and essentially very similar idea here to the hedge, that you're not allowing a player to get to where they want to go. So with this, the hedge, if the contact is already made, the hedge is the best option. If we're trying to avoid the screen altogether, so there is no contact, I like to suggest the ice. What we're going to give up with the ice, though, is mid-range pull-ups from both the ball handler and the big. So if we've got strong shooters, then we know that we can take advantage of an ice situation. Things to consider when we're setting up the screen. To be effective in screen action, both the player setting the screen and the person receiving the screen need to be on the same page. To initiate or ask for a screen, a ball handler will typically raise their right or left hand in the air. If they raise their right fist, then they're asking for a screen to their right side. Some players will instead tap their hip or thigh to ask for a screen to be set for them on that side. Players can also simply point to a spot or verbally ask for a screen to be set at a specific location. Even with this clear giveaway of what the offense is trying to set up, screens are so effective when properly used that the defense will still have a difficult time guarding it. Screens can also be planned as part of an offense or scheme, in which case you may not need to call them at all. Knowing where and when the screen will be set gives you a big advantage over the defense. Once the screen is set, the screener must maintain firm position until it is their time to release. If it isn't a pin screen, where the screener physically seeks out and initiates the contact with your check, then you must ensure that you are running your check off the screen. This can often be achieved easiest by sinking the defender just below the screen and then running them off of it. And we'll demonstrate that in the other video. And the last part here is when we're attacking an offensive player, when an offensive player is utilizing an on-ball screen, it's critical that they get low and tight to the screen. And we often say you want to get shoulder to hip, meaning that the ball handler's shoulder should make contact with the screener's hip. This creates a seal, but can also provide leverage if you need to push off of your teammate into a drag or step back because the defender went under the screen. The seal ensures the defender can't fight over the screen. If the defender does get over the screen, they will be on the ball handler's backside, which provides the offensive player an advantage and options. Effective players can use a variety of speeds and footwork when attacking screens. This gives them maximum control and increases the chances that they will get what they want from the screen action. For examples of setups, reads, and attacking moves for on-ball screens, please refer to the corresponding video. Thank you very much. I'm now going to switch over to the app that I use for creating plays, and I'm going to show you live motion some of those screen situations and what the defense actually wants to achieve. All right, here we are on the clipboard. This is called Fast Model Sports, the basketball clipboard. Pretty cool app that I've been playing around with, creating plays and animating them. So free download on the App Store. So Up here we have our point guard who's going to have the basketball in all of these situations. Their check, number one. We've got a wing, and this could be a big or another guard. We're just going to say a teammate for now with their check. And we're just going to camp out a 3, a very good shooter in the corner for some of these situations. So what we're going to have happen is we are going to be coming over and we're just going to be setting an on-ball screen. Pretty generic situation, all right? So as that happens, so the first situation we were looking at was the switch. So as we come to set the screen up, we have this happening, maybe around there. And then as the point guard, as the point guard goes to come off of the screen, that's where the switch happens. And what they're trying to stop is this option right there, is getting through. So we come to the switch, and then the play would continue like that, which is great, and we explained why. But if there is that size switch right here, now we would have potentially a center playing perimeter defense against our point guard, which definitely I would take that advantage most times. So that is something to consider when we're getting into the switches, things to be aware of. So we'll just do a quick reset. And what we want to get into now is we set up the screen right there. And instead of following like we did, we're going to send this player down into the key. And we're going to have them sag off of the screen or zone it up. And what they're kind of saying there is what they don't want is the number one just getting right to the rim. So they're going to add a second layer of defense against that player. And what they're hoping for is as we come around the screen, since we've sagged, we've created this room for that defender to come underneath. And again, try to beat me to the spot so that I can't easily get to the rim. But what they're giving up there, or essentially saying they can live with, is as they get stuck or come under right here before they can get in front, I can rise up and have my jump shot. So a 3 if that's in my range. Possibly it's an elbow pull up. So it's a good option, but if we can't get around quite fast enough, we are going to give up some shooting there. And if we're good shooters, I'll shoot that shot. Another good thing that can happen to this for our offensive players if we make a good read is as we're coming, if they decide to follow us and try to chase us over that screen instead of going under, we can hit them with the snake screen, and now they're on our backside, and that gives us a really good advantage. So I just want to rewind that again. I'll try and use the dribble feature. So as we're coming over, I'm going to get to that area right there as this player is trying to chase me over. So that's a really good look. Another thing is... and this, again, it gives up that shot option. So if we are good shooters, we can just penetrate and get right into that area. So we can have our shot. If this player does come to challenge us, we're now playing, again, one-on-one against a big. And, again, we're just probably being able to get right to the rim in that situation. The hedge is a great option to kind of steer someone away. And this is where we're going to bring in the good shooter in the corner. We know that they're there, and we don't want them to have a good look from their comfort spot. So as we're setting up the screen, we are going to kind of hit it just like so as we have. And the two, what they've been doing is they were able to switch. We've looked at what it looks like when they sag. They've jammed. And now what we're going to do is we're actually going to hedge. So we're going to come right over on that hedge. So as this player comes in, they can't get over anymore. They can't turn that corner, get to here and then have a kick out for the shooter. So they're going to get to here, and then we're steering them away with their defender, is kind of what they're looking at for that. So again, I'm just going to rewind. And I believe I actually just said we did the jam, but I don't think we did, so I'm just going to recap that. Very similar situation, on ball screen. We're going to come and screen that. And this is the jam, where we're going to actually jam and pin the screener just like so that this 2 can't roll to the rim easily or slip and get a layup. So we're going to actually bring that and jam them. We're going to screen the screener. And now this player has to either fight over the screen, so we fight over, or what we would rather have happen as the offensive player. Again, they could chase us over, which would be nice, and I'll show you how to kind of achieve that. Or they might have to go all the way under now for me, or to recover on me. And now I really get a lot of room to operate. Can even look at using some drag options to create more of a gap. So that is the jam. They really want to try and eliminate the big in that situation, but they're going to give up some stuff as well. So the blitz is something that I very much enjoy using as a coach. So we're going to try and set, I'm going to draw this one actually. So we're going to try and set a screen right there. We're going to try and set that screen. So as we're coming in, or the ball handler's coming into it, the 1 and the 2 are actually going to release, and they're going to try and trap right there. I now need to make a decision. Am I going to get trapped? Am I picking up my dribble? Hopefully we either try and we can split that. So if they're a little bit delayed, or one player's slower than the other, can usually split through that. If they're very good and they're long and they're both coming at the same time, our best option might be, to retreat dribble and then try and attack through the outside. But a couple steps back, and we've talked about the retreat dribble already. So that's the blitz. What they want is for us to throw some sort of pass like that, which is a very stealable pass. Your better option, again, if it's there, is probably faking a pass and trying to split a bounce pass through there, maybe. Or if we can get to the quick outlet over here, we then will have some easy attack angles coming in this way. So definitely some options to be aware of. All of these are good defensive schemes so far, but none of them are perfect. So if you're taking your time and you've got your reads down and you've practiced a lot of your skills and you're comfortable shooting from a variety of areas, then you're going to be very, very hard to guard in a screen situation. So there's one more option we're going to look at, and it's called icing it. And like I said, that really is more of a sideline thing. So we would be over here. We'd probably have our guard right here, making sure we can't just get middle. And we'd be over here. So we're going to have a screen come from the 2. This is going to come all the way across court, we'll say. And they're going to try and set something up like that. And what they're going to want is to kind of bring down to here. We're going to sink this defender and then come over the top, get to the middle of the court, and then again have all kinds of options. And obviously we don't want that. If that's your philosophy is keep it out of the middle, then this is not something you want to let them get away with. So I'm just going to switch over here to move the pieces so you can see a little bit of what it's going to look like spacing wise. So that screen's set right now, kind of in slot, and they want this right there. What's going to have to happen is this person is running over with the screener. They're probably looking at a bit of a hedge situation, and the 2 is yelling at the green 1. ice, ice, ice. They get to dictate what's happening. So as soon as this player, sorry, that keeps happening. As soon as this player hears ice, they need to jump that way. They need to jump to the center of the court. So now they can cut off that angle. So by jumping, you are now able to direct that player out. So I'll put in some lines just to show you what we want. So this person's going to try to get in, but then they won't be able to. They're going to get iced out. And if one does that good job, like I said, they're going to jump and then be able to keep on that hip, that high hip or inside hip, we call it, not letting them turn it and get to the middle. And again, this is a great way of essentially stopping an offense in its tracks. It takes teamwork to do a lot of these schemes or tactics. And as I said, if the timing is off, if the communication's off, then an advantage is created. And that's why these screens are so effective. It's very tough to stop all options.